There's a strange little trick that old-time gardeners have been hiding for decades, and once you see it, you'll wonder why nobody told you sooner. It doesn't cost a dime. You won't find it in a store. And yet, if you bury it in your raised bed tonight, by next week your soil could be crawling with thousands of worms, fat, happy, wriggling worms, all working for free to turn your garden into the richest, most productive patch on your street. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, how to use it, and the one mistake that stops it from working for almost everyone who tries it. Trust me, you don't want to miss the part near the end, because that's where I show you the trick the pros use to double the results. Hey there, my friend. Welcome back to Evergreen Garden Tips, the little corner of YouTube where we make gardening simple, affordable, and honestly, a lot more fun than folks expect. If this is your first time joining us, welcome home. We're a community of everyday people, many of you starting your very first garden after 60, proving every single day that it is never too late to grow something beautiful. And if you're one of our regulars, welcome back, it's always good to have you here in the garden with me. Before we dig in, if you find even a little value in what we share here, would you consider joining the family by tapping that subscribe button? It genuinely helps this little channel grow, and it means more free, honest tips land in your feed every week. No pressure at all, just something to think about while we get our hands dirty today. Now, let's talk about worms. Now, I know what you're thinking. What in the world could you possibly bury in your garden that would call thousands of worms out of the ground like you're ringing a dinner bell? Is it some fancy powder from a garden store? Some expensive fertilizer with a name you can't even pronounce? Nope. It's something sitting in your kitchen right now, something you probably throw in the trash without a second thought. And that's exactly why nobody talks about it. It's too simple. Too ordinary. People assume if it doesn't come in a bag with a price tag, it can't possibly work. But worms don't care about price tags. Worms care about food, moisture, and shelter, and this one humble item gives them all three at once. Here it is. Plain, brown cardboard, soaked in leftover coffee grounds. I know. It sounds too basic to be some big secret. But hear me out, because the way you use it changes everything. Cardboard on its own breaks down slowly and gives worms a dark, damp place to hide from birds and heat. Coffee grounds on their own add nitrogen and a scent that worms find irresistible. But when you combine the two, soaking that cardboard until it's soft and heavy with coffee, then burying it just under the surface of your bed, you're building what old-timers used to call a worm hotel. It holds moisture like a sponge, it breaks down just slowly enough to keep feeding the soil for weeks, and it creates a cool, protected tunnel system that worms practically move into overnight. Let's slow down for a second, because understanding why something works is what separates a gardener who gets lucky once from a gardener who gets results every single season. Worms are drawn to three things. Moisture, because their bodies dry out fast in the sun. Food, especially decomposing organic matter like coffee grounds, which are rich in nitrogen. And darkness, because they're vulnerable little creatures who spend their whole lives avoiding birds, ants, and sunlight. That soaked cardboard checks every single box at once. It's basically an all-inclusive resort for earthworms, and once word gets out in the soil, and trust me, it does, more worms will migrate in from surrounding areas to join the party. Now, before we go any further, I want to ask you something. If you've tried something like this before, whether it worked or completely flopped, drop a comment below and tell me about it. I read every single one, and honestly, some of the best tips on this channel came from things you all shared with me. And if you're finding this helpful so far, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It costs nothing, it takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to show this video to more people just like you, folks who are trying to garden smarter, not harder. Alright, let's get back to it, because there's a mistake almost everyone makes with this trick, and I don't want that to be you. Here's where most people go wrong. They soak the cardboard for maybe a minute, lay it on top of the soil, sprinkle a little mulch over it, and call it a day. Then a week later they're disappointed because nothing happened. The problem is depth and saturation. If the cardboard isn't buried at least an inch or two under the surface, it dries out in the sun before the worms even find it. And if it isn't properly soaked all the way through, not just damp on the outside, it won't hold enough moisture to keep them interested for more than a day or two. Think of it like leaving out a plate of food that's already gone dry and hard. Nobody's coming to that dinner party. So here's how you actually do this the right way, step by step, and I promise you it's easier than it sounds. First, save your coffee grounds for about a week. You don't need a huge amount, just enough to fill a small bucket. If you don't drink coffee yourself, most local coffee shops will happily give away their used grounds for free. They usually just throw them out anyway. Second, take plain, uncoated cardboard, the kind from a shipping box works perfectly, and tear it into pieces roughly the size of your hand. Avoid anything glossy or printed with heavy ink. Plain and boring is exactly what you want here. Third, soak that cardboard in a bucket of water mixed with your coffee grounds for at least 24 hours. You want it soft enough that you could tear it apart with your fingers, not stiff and crunchy. Fourth, dig a shallow trench in your raised bed or garden, just a couple inches deep, and lay the soaked cardboard flat inside it, pressing the leftover coffee grounds right into the material. Fifth, cover it back over with your existing soil, and if you have any, top it with a thin layer of mulch or dry leaves to lock in the moisture even further. That's it. No tools, no cost beyond what's already sitting in your kitchen, and no complicated schedule to follow. Now here's the part that surprises people most. This isn't an overnight miracle, and I want to be honest with you about that, because I'd rather you have real expectations than false hope. In the first 3 to 5 days, you'll likely notice the soil around that spot looking darker and feeling softer to the touch. That's the moisture and nitrogen already starting to work. By the second week, if you gently dig around that area, you should start seeing worms gathering, sometimes far more than you'd expect for such a small patch. And by the third or fourth week, as that cardboard fully breaks down, you'll often find the surrounding soil noticeably richer, crumblier, and easier to work with your bare hands. Here's a little bonus for those of you still with me, and this one almost nobody mentions. If you really want to speed things up, add a handful of crushed eggshells into that same trench before you cover it. Worms use tiny bits of grit like crushed eggshell to help digest their food, almost like the way birds swallow small stones. It won't attract them on its own, but paired with that coffee-soaked cardboard, it keeps the worms sticking around longer instead of just passing through. At the end of the day, gardening after 60 isn't about spending more money or working harder, it's about working smarter, using what nature already gives us for free, and trusting little tricks like this one that our grandparents probably knew all along before they got buried under fancy marketing and expensive products. Worms are nature's tiny farmers, quietly turning waste into wealth right under our feet, and now you know exactly how to invite thousands of them into your garden without spending a single cent. If this video helped you even a little, please consider subscribing to Evergreen Garden Tips. It truly helps this channel keep growing so we can keep bringing you simple, honest gardening advice every single week. Drop a comment and let me know if you're going to try this trick, and if you know someone who could use a healthier, more worm-friendly garden, go ahead and share this with them. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.